Hello and welcome to Melomaniax, the podcast where we take unbiased deep dives into the biggest musicians and bands of all time. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Dallas. Today we are going to be talking about the California beach band Sugar Ray. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on socials. We're on Instagram and TikTok. Most importantly, please hit us with those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Although we appreciate those reviews on any platform, wherever you're listening to this. Also, we officially have a Patreon that is live. We offer a $5 per month tier, just one. Not a lot of choices, just give you the one choice. And that gives you access to the Discord, as well as a shout out on one of our episodes and the ability to vote on future episode topics. So, Sugar Ray, what are your thoughts on Sugar Ray? What did you know before we started the episode? And then we'll obviously get into what we learned after. But what did you learn? What was your opinions on Sugar Ray before we did this episode?
I love Sugar Ray. At least from a Sugar Ray really is just like the staple like radio song that would like really lit up my whole like early 2000s and stuff. So I don't know where I remember hearing them other than like the radio, but then even when I was going through the discography, a couple of the songs that weren't singles I had heard, many times before. So I'm like wondering where I had listened to them if they weren't on the radio, because I'm not sure if they were on. They might have had a song or two on like the Now CDs. I know we've been talking about those a ton lately, but they may have had a couple through there. But I know I also have listened to their discography in the past, so I knew going in, I was like, they're an interesting band as far as their sound, because I used to always joke, if you listen to their first album and like their second, they were, almost straight like metal in a way. As weird as that sounds, and we'll get into all that with they were a little genre confused for a while, but the stuff that hit the radio, I just love it, man. I don't know how you can't listen to that without like a smile on your face and like think of sunshine and beaches and things like that.
I was just about to say, yeah, feel the warmth of the sun on your face and it's summer again. I was gonna say, to kind of ping off what you were saying, there's two bands that I've noticed that have so many recognizable songs, but you never really know who the band is, until you do, of course. But like you'll hear a song on the radio and be like, oh yeah, of course. Like, let's sing this song. Everybody knows this song. And then you're like, who's that band again? And then you look it up, you're like, oh my God, it's Foreigner again. Foreigner's one of those bands where they have like 15 songs everyone knows, and they all sound just different enough to where I'm like, I can't be Foreigner, right? That's like Kansas or someone else like them. You know what I mean? But it's always Foreigner. And Sugar Ray's the other one. All those like, 90s, 2000s songs where you're like, yeah, this is one of like 4 different bands. It's always Sugar Ray.
Always Sugar Ray.
So that's my experience going into this. So let's jump back to Orange County, California.
Ooh.
Take it from the top.
All right. So you have Orange County, California. That's where, or at least in the 80s, that's where we're starting our tale off. Starting with Rodney Shepherd. And Rodney, he played guitar in multiple reggae bands and even worked with the future drummer for Good Charlotte, Dean Butterworth. So they were in a band together before they both figured out their final bands. And the true evolution of the band started when he started playing in the band called The Tories with drummer Stan Frazier. And they would later add Murphy Cargas and the current singer Mark McGrath. Sorry. I'm going to say McGarth a couple of times just out of...
Mark McGarth is the most hilarious name I've ever heard.
Mark McGrath. Yeah. Dude, it's just because recently you and I were talking about the Garth Brooks stuff. So Garth is like in my head.
Yeah. Marky Mark McGarth.
Marky Mark McGarth. So,
that is a tough name. If you're skimming through, that's a tough one to hit.
Yeah. So Mark McGrath would be added. And we would get our first band name change to Shrinky Dinks. Where does that rank on our band name scale? 1 out of 10.
It's if the band name scale is on the ground floor, it's in the sub levels.
It's in the
it's got to take an elevator quite a ways to even get to the band name scale.
Sorry, boys. Not your best work with the naming. So after they
Nope.
got signed to Atlantic Records, good for them, they would change it to Sugar Ray because they were being threatened by a lawsuit from Milton Bradley Company because they had a toy called Shrinky Dinks, spelled a little differently, but that doesn't matter in corporate America. So, and
Yeah.
honestly,
So
good.
just a tip to you musicians out there that maybe think of, you're just going to start a band, you're thinking of names. If you start a band with a name and you can't use the name because a children's toy has the same name, back to the drawing board. Find a different name. It's not the one. Keep trying.
It's not the one. It can go on the board, but it cannot be the final option.
It can't. Let's, hey, we're just brainstorming. Let's get it up there. Not that one, but let's.
Have you named every band that you've been in, or have?
Yes, I have.
You have been the one to name it.
Marry Me, Joanna, Osara, the LA Maybe, and Bourbon Sons, and you could definitely argue that some of those maybe weren't the best either. But
can you remember?
I stand by all of them.
Can you remember any suggestions from your bandmates?
No, I think it was more like, because usually I would have the name already and then kind of go build the band. Live Round was before Marry Me, Joanna as well. Okay, but before that it was Resurrection, and then we, of course, there was already a band called Resurrection, so we tried spelling it with like 2 S's and 1 R, like just the stupidest. Like I was like 14, just so dumb.
I don't even remember Resurrection in your.
That was me and Ian.
And
then it became Live Round, and then Ian kind of moved away, and it became me and Daniel, and that was Live Round for a bit, and then it became Marry Me, Joanna.
Yeah, I remember Live Round for sure, and then of course I remember Marry Me, Joanna, which we still have some of those songs on one of my iPods somewhere.
Dude, you have on that iPod in question, you have every demo I ever did for that band, and there's a ton of them. That, like, I have all the songs we finished and released, and I even have them on hard copy as well. But I don't have all those demos. I would love to be able to get those somehow. I don't know how. I think the iPod doesn't work anymore. But
I was going to say, it's my iPod that is completely taken apart. So I don't know if I don't even know if there's any sound. I might not even have it anymore. We'll see.
Take that hard drive to some super nerd, and he's like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, because I have like it's the old, for anybody wondering, it's like the old 160 gigabyte one. I don't remember what that one was called. I had a Nano.
That was the iPod Classic.
The Classic, that's right. Because I had a Nano first.
That was the one that came out. There was the iPod, which I had the first iPod when it came out, and I never used it. And then all of a sudden, I started using it all the time when I realized, like, oh, this thing's actually pretty cool. And then they had like the Nano, the Shuffle, and then the Video. And then after the Video, they came out with the Classic, which was like everything in one, and it greatly expanded memory and all that. So I had that one as well. That was the main one, dude. I remember those were so cool. Just to hold that in your hand.
Oh yeah. So
the nostalgia of that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I still have one of them that works, and I think the other one that was broken, I may have finally thrown it away. I might have given up on it. We'll see. I'll actually check on that as soon as we're done recording. But we'll get back.
Well, back to the Shrinky Dinks.
Yeah, back to
they put out their. At least, see, that would even be better. Instead of Shrinky Dinks, be the Shrinky Dinks. Like, come on. So they put out their first album, Lemonade and Brownies, under Atlantic Records on April 4th, 1995. This album was basically a dud, but it did start to catch the attention of some alternative groups. It has the song Mean Machine, which you said blew you away the first time you ever heard it.
Yeah, that one's like the first one that's like, dude, it just starts with like just the most like, I don't know, just grunge, hard rocky kind of sound. I don't know how to explain it, but it just comes in with like a snare roll right into just some heavy guitar, and the vocals are not what you'd expect. Basically, if you listen to this song and you only knew the stuff on the radio from Sugar Ray, out of a million guesses, you would never guess Sugar Ray that performed the song ever.
Goo Goo Dolls are like that as well.
Yeah, you would,
and I think actually Pantera is like that as well. For different reasons. But yeah, we associate Sugar Ray with happy radio beach music, and this one is like straight up rock, leaning into metal. But it's funny you say the grunge thing, because this would have been, April 4th, 1995. Like, you're square in the middle of the grunge explosion. So that's cool. You actually mentioned they reminded you of kind of Rage Against the Machine a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely have some of that rage sound to them. Minus, I guess even the vocals are a little bit. So Mark was the one doing the vocals, and he actually preferred to do those type of vocals rather than the radio poppy stuff. I think it was a little harder for him to sing than to do just like a kind of a raspy kind of like rock
We're
thing.
gonna get into all that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna touch on that later. But and I think he wasn't very comfortable as a singer in general, is what it sounded like, just based on the narrative that I was getting. That he was already a pretty not confident, or he just didn't have a lot of confidence in himself and kind of knew his limits, and so that's why he was a little hesitant to dive into that other genre. But we'll get into that with their next album, because you'll see.
Hey, it seemed to work out. That evolution of their band was really from hardcore punk to glam metal to funk metal to alt rock to more of a pop rock. So they kind of ran the gamut there. That's an interesting story. I think a lot of musicians can take a lot from. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out from jump. Some people do, some people don't. Some people find it way later. Like Chris Stapleton famously didn't hit any of his success till he was like mid 40s. So it's like that might be a little, maybe late 30s, but later than most people, right? You would think. Louis C.K., comedian, was like 45 when he got his first big break. So there's lots of stories of people working it out along the way. Sugar Ray's no exception.
You just can't give up. That's it. Not
saying they're even old. It has nothing to do with age. It's more about the what's the word I'm looking for there? Transformation.
Well, even though their debut album didn't really catch much attention at all, their second album definitely put them on the map. So their second album, Floored, was released June 24th, 1997. By the way, I love that their albums come out like in spring and like early summer. It's so perfect. So June 24th, 1997. And this album actually reached number 12 on the Billboard 200. And it actually went 2 times platinum as well. So pretty good for their second album, finally hit something. And this album had 2 singles, one of which being the reason that the band caught so much attention. And that single was Fly, which is the song that basically launched them in the limelight, because it would sit at the top of the Billboard 100 for 4 weeks straight. So they got a number 1 hit. And this is another one of the songs that really sounds like we've talked about them in the past. This one sounds really uplifting and happy and whatnot, but the song is just about death. So that's cool. And then another fun fact is the band wrote this song without Mark. And when he heard it, he absolutely didn't want to record it and was about to quit the band because of it. He really enjoyed writing the harder stuff. He was definitely that hardcore metal sound that I was talking about. That's the stuff he liked. That's what he was there for. And so when they wrote this song, it was like, oh, I don't know about that. And so, he stuck around though. Good thing he did, because this song ended up being number 1. So man, imagine that. I don't want to do this song, and then it becomes a number 1 hit. So
I was just gonna say that's it's almost more toxic when you go back, because the "I told you so" feeling is so heavy,
right?
Or just can't look any of your bandmates in the eyes. You're just like, yeah, let's do Fly, I guess, next.
Yeah. And the other single was RPM, which only hit a minor chart, which I don't mind that song. That's one of the songs that's hard rock. For that album. So they still didn't get out of that sound. They still had some of that in their, they'd still throw those occasional harder songs onto their albums.
Yeah. So after gaining some traction with Fly, they actually had 2 songs from their first album make it onto a video game soundtrack. The songs Speed Home California and Mean Machine were both featured on the PlayStation and N64 games, Road Rash 3D and Road Rash 64. You had a catchphrase for that game.
Dude, I hope the catchphrase was more road, less rash. That'd be so good.
Have you played either one of those games?
I don't think so, but I feel like if you showed me the cover, I would instantly be like, oh yeah, that game. But man, how old school video game is that title? Road Rash 3D. Love that.
Yeah, that's really bad. You got to have the 3D. Imagine Grand Theft Auto 3D.
What was it? Is it the first Elder Scrolls game that's just dots or whatever, or was that Grand Theft Auto?
Dude, I actually don't know anything about the Elder Scrolls before Morrowind, which was 3, I think. I looked at the PlayStation and N64 covers Neither of them look overly familiar to me. The 64 looks more familiar than the 3D, though.
Now
I definitely never owned this game.
Now I got to look it
may
up.
have played
I've seen it. I don't think I've played it, but I've definitely seen it. I did not think it was a motorcycle game. I definitely thought it would be like a dirt racing game or something like that.
Interesting.
Based on...
That's awesome.
But, I mean, good for them. Getting those video game songs. Love that.
That needs to be Road Rash 2025. More road, less rash.
Yeah. There we go. All right. So moving along to their third album called 1459, which was released January 12th, 1999. Weird time to release their album. Come on. This one had a ton of good summer singles. Anyways, so I think you'll like this. The album was named 1459 because everybody told them, like, enjoy your 15 minutes of fame from Fly. You know the saying, like, enjoy your 15 minutes of fame? Well, that's basically what everyone thought the band was going to do. So they named their next album 1459, just making a joke at the 15 minutes of fame thing. And I kind of like that. That was pretty cool. And so this...
yeah, that is cool. It's interesting, though. Like, nobody... I mean, like, everybody has there's a time limit on fame. You know what I mean? Like, even someone like Jimmy Page, who's like, you know, doesn't get much more famous than that in his community. But even that's like, he's not, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but like he's on the back end of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's a legend. Like, when you hit legend status, it's like you're not necessarily being like swamped like Taylor Swift, different level. You know what I mean? She's square in the middle of that 15 minutes. That 15 minutes might be 15 years. It might actually be 15 minutes. Who knows? But everybody kind of gets a ton. No, it's never infinite, you know?
Yeah, never infinite. But I think most people thought, just because when you listen to the songs that aren't Fly, you're like, huh, none of this is radio friendly. You know, none of this is going to get you anywhere in a sense. And so then they have the one single that, like, out of nowhere, that's like a number one that doesn't sound like their sound. You know, I think a lot of people just thought this was like the countless 80s bands that just had one single, literally one radio hit, and you never hear from them again. I think that's what a lot of people thought this band was going to be. And so then they released this album, and I think it kind of shut them up a bit. So, you know, and
that's good. Love shutting up the haters.
This is also the album that really transitions into pop rock. However, you got to listen to the intro song. It's like a minute long, and it just comes in with just heavy guitar and drums and like this growling scream vocals. And dude, when you look on like YouTube and stuff, when I was listening to some of it and looking some things up, the top comment said, when I was a kid and bought this, I thought they put the wrong CD in when I put it in, because it literally comes on and you're like,
that's amazing.
Oh my gosh. And then it goes straight into Every Morning, like as the second song.
Oh, that's perfect. So, actually, though, this is a really funny like sidebar that's unrelated to this, but you made me think of it. I think you'll enjoy this story. We went to, I think we went to see like, it was like a kid's movie, like Toy Story 4, some animated fun little movie. And we're in the theater and the lights go down and it starts this like really ominous music. And it's like, you know, dark clouds, the camera's moving through dark. It's very like horror movie-esque. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is an interesting move for, you know, it wasn't Toy Story, but let's use that as an example. It's a really interesting move. I guess they're it's going to be really funny. Something's going to pop out here in a second, laugh. Everyone's going to get a good laugh out of the, you know, juxtaposition. Nope. Just Insidious Part 3 logo starts coming up. They had put the wrong movie in the theater.
Oh no! I was thinking you were in the wrong theater, but they put the wrong movie out. Dude, there's all these kids in there like, oh!
The intro to that movie is pretty traumatizing too, because just the music. It's like the strings do this horrific cluster. It just sounds like horror. And it was like, you know, it was like late in the showing of this movie, so like it had been out for months. There was like 5 people in the theater, you know, but it was still like somebody got up and just walked out and went to get the person like, hey, nope, not this one.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, Insidious has some iconic. I think the movies get carried by that I don't even know how to describe it, but is it a violin that like, or is it a fiddle?
Yeah,
or is it a fiddle?
It's violin string section. It's called a cluster when everyone in the section plays a different note, and when a violin does it, it sounds horrific in a good way.
Oh yeah, that
So,
music gets the hair
those
on the
string
back
clusters,
of my neck.
if you want to hear a perfect string cluster, listen to the whole track. I think it's called The Insidious Flare. It's off of, I want to say part 3, part 2. It's off one of them, but it's called Insidious Flare, or The Insidious Flare.
Yeah.
That's this track that opened up. So if you watch that, you'll hear what I was hearing in the movie theater, expecting something different. It's real slow, kind of ominous. You're like, okay, weird. And then it just hits this massive cluster. When it hits that, that's when the logo actually rises up out of the clouds. And that's when everyone kind of looked at each other like, I don't think this is...
Probably not Toy Story.
Yeah. That's so funny.
That's actually the soundtrack I sleep to, so I can keep my mind relaxed.
Yeah. Just have good dreams. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So for the album, it actually hit number 17 on the Billboard 200. Not as successful as the previous for the Billboard 200, but it would go triple platinum, which was more successful than the previous. So kind of weird. Sales better, but the position on the Billboard 200, not as good. 3 singles for this album. The first was Every Morning, like I mentioned, and Every Morning managed to hit number 3 on the Billboard 100, so close to hit number 1. It hit number 1 on a ton of other charts, but not the Billboard 100. And then the second...
Did you happen to see what was number 2 and number 1?
I did not look it up this time. So let's see. It would be about the year...
I can look it up while you go on.
Yeah, if you want to. It would either be... I don't know if they released the single like prior to the album or after. So it'll be either 98, 99, or 2000. Somewhere in that range. But I guess you could just look up...
99 it looks like.
Yeah, you could look up the other two and see. Anyways, the second single, I'll talk about this while you find that. The second single from the album was Falls Apart, which landed at number 29 on the Billboard 100. And the third and final single from the album was Someday. And Someday was their third top 10 on the Billboard 100, landing at number 7. So pretty successful through 2 albums, I'd say. Or 3 albums, that's right. Because the first, I always forget about the first one because it just didn't do anything. But they were at least able to get up there decently high on the Billboard. And also want to shout out the song Glory, which was featured on the movie American Pie. So they were able to get a couple, got a couple video game hits in the first one, and now they're getting a movie one. So, and then Sugar Ray actually went on tour after this, and they were supposed to perform at Woodstock 99, but due to Mark being ill, they had to cancel.
Oh. Wow. They dodged a bullet there. Have you seen that documentary?
I have not. Woodstock 99?
That festival, Woodstock 99, literally ended in flames. The entire thing got burned down.
Actually.
Fans rioted. There was I think there were murders. Like it was not good. Anyway, here I found out the answer, and I was doing some research, and then I realized this is going to take forever. So I pulled up ChatGPT and asked it, and I was like, why don't we use this more often? So anyway, here's what it had to say. In 1999, Sugar Ray's Every Morning peaked at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. The 2 songs that held the top spots when Every Morning was at number 3 were number 2, Believe by Cher. Do you believe? Love that one.
Oh, nice.
And number 1, Angel of Mine by Monica. Not familiar with that one. I'm sure I'd know it if I heard it, but I'm not familiar with that by name, and I don't recognize the artist either. So,
Angel by Monica. Yeah. Make a note of that. We'll listen to that after we listen to it.
Angel of Mine by Monica.
After we
got it.
Stop recording. So,
Mark was ill. They canceled Woodstock 99. Dodged a huge bullet. Everyone should go check out that documentary. It's on Netflix. We should do an episode on that at some point. Also, at some point after the album, Mark got some bad publicity. Why can't I talk? Publicity. When a video started going viral of him getting into it with some people outside of a bar. It's interesting to think how crazy a video has to be to go viral before the internet,
Right.
Apparently, the whole thing started when someone yelled "sugar gay" at him. I'd say it's not funny, but it's objectively hilarious. Yeah. Apparently, he took more offense than usual because the friends he was hanging out with happened to be gay. Regardless, it wasn't a good look. We talked a little bit about that before the episode, but I think, stuff like that, you got to be like, that seems pretty
insignificant.
What's the word?
Honestly.
Yeah, like that's nothing. Like, come on.
It's whatever.
Worse.
Yeah,
But then that goes to show you, like, you never know what's going on with any person on any given day, and they could be an amazing, perfect person, and you just catch them on that 1 minute of that one day where it's not going their way and they snap in a way that they wouldn't usually snap. So I don't know his history with that, but could have just been it was a bad look either way, but it could have just been a bad moment. Or it could be indicative of a bad person. I don't know. But
I've seen a couple of videos of.
I always try to withhold judgment on stuff like that.
I've seen a couple of videos like that of Elton John where he's snappy with people, but for some reason I don't even fault him for it because this is gonna sound bad, but like he's gay and English, and I just kind of expect it from him. I expect like rude behavior. I don't know why. Have you
seen the video where on stage during his stadium tour he's just screaming at his monitor engineer? It's like I feel so bad for the monitor engineer, but it's so funny. You silly cunt!
Yeah, dude, he loves that word.
Turn the fucking piano up. But one of the comments I saw was like, that's not the first time he's asked him to do this. Like,
yeah, right.
Where it's just like the 25th time he's just had it, and that's the one that goes viral. But it's like, dude, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know why. I just don't fault them for, like I'm just like, oh look, it's Elton John. Like maybe it's that other person's fault. It's probably that other person's fault. I'm just
there's something to be said for that. I mean, you should always try to treat people with respect. But
yeah. Anyways,
yeah, who knows?
I'll hop along to their to Sugar Ray's 4th album, and this would be the self-titled, and this was released June 12th, 2001. So I think back to their early summer releases, which is, I think, exactly the right spot for them. And it hit number 6 on the Billboard 200. As for sales, this album wouldn't get close to reaching the success of the previous two. I don't get it. It's so weird. Like the better they do on the Billboard 200, it's going to be the worse they do on sales. It doesn't make sense with them. But
yeah, that's crazy.
But they would only sell about 500,000 copies, making it gold. So absolute failures. Can't believe it. Anyways, the album had 3 singles released, and the first was When It's Over, which hit number 13 on the Billboard 100. The second was Answer the Phone, which only hit the bubbling under at number 12. So 112, if you're thinking of the Billboard 100. Then the final single was Hours, which didn't find any chart success. And I cannot believe this is what I was mentioning earlier. The song Under the Sun wasn't a single. And I'm like, I swear I heard that song on the radio as a kid. Like, I am so sure. But I guess I was mistaken. And in addition to the singles, the song Sorry Now was featured in Scary Movie 2, and the song Words to Me was featured in Scooby-Doo. And in fact, I don't know if you remember this, the whole band was in the movie. The first live action one? Yep, the first live action Scooby-Doo with like the Scary Island or whatever. I can't remember what the island's called.
Was it I remember, was Matthew Lillard? Is that his name?
Yeah, that sounds
wrong on that?
That sounds right.
Yeah, no, Matthew Lillard. Yeah, I got it right.
Playing Shaggy.
And then Isla Fisher. I like Isla Fisher.
Yeah, so there was, it's like the part where I think it's like Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne are all there, kind of thinking like, that she's like, something's wrong, we should split up, and while she's walking through, there's a band playing by the pool and stuff, and that band is actually just Sugar Ray, and that was actually filmed in Australia.
I do remember that.
They were there for like,
I do remember that,
a couple weeks. They said it was awesome, but yeah, I didn't learn that was Sugar Ray until way after the fact. And
that's awesome.
That makes sense. But I like that shout out because I watched that movie quite a few times as a kid.
So. Oh yeah, same. I don't remember it much now because it's been, the last time I saw it, I was probably like 10. But
yeah, I had to. I
definitely watched it a lot.
Yeah, I looked up a couple of the scenes during the research, and it hit me in the nostalgia.
There you go. That brings us to June 3rd, 2003. Sugar Ray's 5th album, In the Pursuit of Leisure, would be released. Really not much to talk about with this album. It was another major dud. So, didn't hit the Billboard 200, only sold about 135,000 copies. This was their worst performing album since their debut. Did have 2 singles associated with it. The first was Mr. Bartender, parentheses, It's So Easy, which only managed to hit just a smaller chart. The other single was Is She Really Going Out With Him, which is a Joe Jackson cover. And this song would share the same fate as the other single, only hitting a smaller chart. Because of this lack of success with this album, the band would delay putting out another album for about 6 years. So we see that from time to time where bands are kind of, I mean, I can't say they're rushing it though. It's 2 years almost to the day
Right?
from the one before it. So no one would argue that that's, you can't say that's rushing. But anyway, it did set them back. I guess it kind of left a bad taste in their mouth a little bit. They didn't release anything for another 6 years.
Yep. So in between in that 6 years, they did release a greatest hits album called The Best of Sugar Ray on June 21st, 2005, and it actually included 3 new tracks with it: Shot of Laughter, Psychedelic Bee, and a cover of Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time. And the greatest hits album is the album that I'm most familiar with, believe it or not.
Yeah, same.
I never owned any of their CDs or anything, but whenever I did start to actively go to listen to Sugar Ray when I was older, I always just put on the best of it. It just kind of hits everything you need to hear. So
that's the album art I recognize the fastest as well.
Yes, that is the album art that I'm like, yep, that's Sugar Ray. There it is. And I think of the 3 new songs, Shot of Laughter is the one I like the most of those, by the way. The Time After Time cover is pretty good, but it's not anything special. So
right. Now that brings us to after their 6-year hiatus from releasing a studio album, Sugar Ray released their 6th album, Music for Cougars. That's a good title. Music for Cougars was released on July 21st, 2009. This is just the summer band, you know what I mean?
Dude, yeah.
And this album hit number 80 on the Billboard 200. Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing that they're just like the summer band.
They sound like summer, right? For sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think, and actually we were talking before we recorded too about Third Eye Blind. I think they kind of match that as well. Not as much as Sugar Ray, but I personally associate Third Eye Blind, all the songs, with summer and, being in the really hot cars in South Carolina, going to the pool or whatever. I have strong memories of all that. So anyway, so that album did hit number 80 on the Billboard 200. They got the title because a friend of theirs made a comment that all of their fans were females and cougars. Hey, there's worse fans out there. You're doing all right. In response to the commercial failure of the album, Mark said, there are no commercial concerns for Sugar Ray now. Sure, we'd love to sell 1 million records. Who wouldn't? But look, when a U2 record and a Guns N' Roses record both fail commercially, it's far from us to think we can sell millions. He was referring to No Line on the Horizon by U2 and Chinese Democracy by Guns N' Roses. As for Sugar Ray's album, they don't even have the singles listed because of how poorly the album performed. I'm curious, I actually don't know how Chinese Democracy performed.
Well, it must not have gone platinum if that's what he was saying, or maybe it didn't yet. But yeah, I didn't look at the numbers. I just was curious, like, because he said U2 and Guns N' Roses. I was like, what were their albums coming out around this time?
It's platinum. It's platinum it's platinum in the United States and the UK and Europe, and New Zealand. Although platinum in New Zealand is 15,000. Oh. It's not Appetite for Destruction, it looks like, but it's definitely it was the U.S. top rock album, #1 Billboard. It's on a bunch of charts, sub 5, like a bunch.
Yeah, this interview could have been right after it came out, though, and you need time to sell. That's very true. So,
Now let's remember though, the hype around this album was, there's never been more hype around an album. Like,
how many years before, or how many years in between Chinese Democracy and their previous?
There's 2 numbers I remember, and I never remember which is which, but it was either 12 years and cost $14 million or 14 years and cost $12 million. But,
jeez,
one of those. Yeah. And a lot of that, you'd think like, why does it take so long? And we get into more of this on a Guns N' Roses episode, but a lot of that, from my understanding, was, basically Axl would, get rid of somebody and bring somebody in, and the new guy then had to go redo all the old guy's parts because Axl didn't want any of the old guy's parts on there. So it was a lot of like going back over stuff that had been done for years. You know what I mean?
I see.
And that happened a lot. And then a lot of just like, we could just a lot of perfectionism, really, I think is what it came down to. But anyway, I don't want to get too off track, but I was curious about that because I remember, getting the pre-order from Best Buy. It showed up the day before it came out. I had the album at my door. And like, I remember all that because that was when I was, getting into music and a big Guns N' Roses fan and all that stuff. It kind of lined up great. I think that album came out 2009, right? Yep.
It's not a bad album if I remember.
The U2 one I do not know. No, I really enjoy it. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are hoping for, Appetite for Destruction. You're out of your mind if you think that's what was going to happen. It didn't even happen on Use Your Illusion. Like, it's certainly not going to happen, 30 years later. But
So shortly after the album was released, turntablist Craig, DJ Homicide Bullock, bass player Murphy Cargus, and drummer Stan Fraser would all depart the band. And Craig left because the money wasn't flowing anymore. And as for the other two, one was done touring and the other left to go work for Aaron Rodgers. And I tried as hard as I could, but I couldn't figure out the details on the Aaron Rodgers thing.
Aaron Rodgers, for those that don't know, the famous NFL quarterback.
Yes. And the only thing I have to...
hard left for music.
Right? The only thing I have to go
What does
off
that mean,
of,
though? That's such a good point. Like, what does work? Is he like his assistant? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so the only thing that I found is this tweet by the Mark, the singer. He posted this like after their departure or whatever, and he said, quote, Sugar Ray is very happy with Stan cooking taquitos at the fair and Murphy moving unit for Aaron Rodgers. Glad you guys admittedly moved on. I don't know what moving unit means. Like, yeah, there's just like no information on it. I tried to look it up.
Google both their names.
I tried and I just couldn't find it. So, but anyways, I was like, that is so weird. Like, what you got?
He started a record label, Aaron Rodgers.
Really?
It's called Suspended Sunrise Recordings. It's an independent record label based in San Diego, California. The label was created by Aaron Rodgers and co-founded by Ryan Zachary in 2009, but it officially became active when signing the first band, The Make, in 2011. Oh, here's a sentence. In October 2011, Suspended Sunrise Recording announced that Murphy Cargus has been named the president of Suspended Sunrise Recordings.
Oh, there we go. That's what he did. Huh. I didn't know Aaron Rodgers owned a recording company. That's awesome.
I didn't know that either. I didn't know he was that passionate about music. That's crazy. I actually didn't know he was that passionate about anything besides football. He's kind of a like really low key, like soft spoken guy. Like almost, I don't want to say boring, but he's really like kind of monotone and quiet,
Yeah, I mean, he does a lot of talk shows and definitely loves to get his face out there. But I know what you mean about like I wonder if he can sing. Now I'm gonna have to like dive into Aaron Rodgers musically.
Yeah, I know, right? That's crazy.
So shortly after, in 2013, Murphy and Stan both sued Mark. Actually, they claimed that he cheated them out of some money and wouldn't let them rejoin the band. And apparently, on their side of the story, both of them said they never quit the band. They just took a hiatus because of Mark's erratic behavior at the time. And then Mark reworked the contract to basically keep them out of everything. And so that's what it sounds like. They weren't like out, but they were like, we're not playing for a little while. And he just went to the paperwork and just kind of wrote them out of the contract. And then, so that was kind of like how all that went. And so I couldn't really find the results of the lawsuit. My guess is that it was settled outside of court, because that seems to always be the solution. Or maybe it's still not done, because some lawsuits take forever. Like, look at Tool.
That's true. I mean, you're going on 15 years at this point, but yeah.
Yeah, so
that's crazy. Yeah, it's sad. I already see the writing on the wall. This is not a great ending for a band. I mean, it's too true for too many bands out there. However, I think it's kind of weird. You can't just rewrite a contract without the two of them if you're all on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So I'm wondering how they did. Like, I can't just like change the contract and be like, well, this is it now. Like, you're like, well, I was on that one and I didn't sign it. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, you couldn't even dissolve it without their signatures. Now I wanted to go back to this word, turntablist. That's a hilarious word.
Yeah, I didn't want to say DJ Craig DJ Homicide. So I put the turntablist,
What's up, man? I'm a turntablist. What are you? Oh, I'm a doctor. Sorry. Why don't you just say unemployed next time? Save us all some words. I'm joking. All right. I guess that's on me. I'm just thinking about this lawsuit. I don't know. I'd love more information on that. As for replacing the members that left, Sugar Ray added percussionist Al Keith, bass player Justin Bavona, and drummer Jesse Bavona. The Bavona brothers had been touring members for the band in the past years, so kind of just made sense there. So we went a little bit out of order, but in 2012, Mark worked with Art Alexakis. That is a cool name.
Right?
He's, of course, from the band Everclear, about starting a 1990s nostalgia tour. They put together the Summerland tour, which featured Sugar Ray, Everclear, Marcy Playground, Gin Blossoms, and Lit. Yeah, that's a nostalgia tour for sure. Wow, that's awesome. And that ended up being a success. So after the first year, they changed the name to Under the Sun and ran it for 3 years. That's killer.
Right?
I like that.
Yeah, they did some different lineups. I think Smash Mouth was in the second year.
Are you relatively familiar with all 5 of those bands? I know Sugar Ray well. I like Gin Blossoms, probably my favorite. Lit has some good ones, and I know like an Everclear song or two. I do not know Marcy Playground. I for sure would know the song or two that they have, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know the name. Marcy Playground song. Yeah, for sure. You know their like hit.
Let's look them up.
It was on a Now CD, so that's why it was Sex and Candy.
Oh, Sex and Candy. Yeah,
of course. That's Marcy Playground. I always thought it was Marcy's Playground. It feels better that way, but apparently it's Marcy Playground.
That's actually kind of better.
Yeah.
And what was Everclear's song or two? I'm sure they had a couple.
Yeah, it's like I recognize the Gin Blossoms. I'm not sure about Lit. I'm sure I know a song by all the bands there. But Lit, I wasn't
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Lit has My Own Worst Enemy. Yeah.
Okay.
We were just singing this the other day.
Yeah. My Own Worst Enemy. I know that one then.
Yep.
So yeah, that was.
I get a lot of them mixed up in my head, but yeah. We were just singing that the other day. That's kind of funny. But yeah, they have a few, and then Gin Blossoms has some great. They're a little more on the. I'd say they're probably less aggressive than the others. I don't know, but anyway.
That's a good way to put that. Ray. Yeah, back to Sugar Ray. So finally, after 10 years of not hitting the studio, Sugar Ray released its 7th studio album, Little Yachty. And Little Yachty was released on July 26, 2019. The album's title is a shout out to the genre yacht rock, as well as the rapper Lil Yachty. And so Lil Yachty was born the same year as the release of the single Fly. And so they got his approval with like flying colors. I think he tweeted back to him or something and said like, "Oh, you guys are legends. Like if you ever want to work together, like hit me up. Like I love that." So
dude, that's the move, dude. I hate when some of these people are like, when this kind of situation happens and the person gets like super offended and like sues them, "You got to take it down right now." It's like, dude, come on, man. Like you're making yourself look like an ass. You're making this band that clearly loves you look like an ass. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shout out Lil Yachty for treating it how it should always be treated. Like,
right.
You know?
And then as far as the yacht rock thing, they had received some feedback and stuff saying that like their beachy radio hit like songs have a very yacht rock vibe. And I kind of get it. Like kind of get it with the feel and stuff. Like I guess beachy music could overlap with like the yacht rock, but
for sure. Yeah.
So I mean,
yacht rock, you're singing about a boat half the time. So
right. So you know, they leaned into that, and the album didn't have any chart success or any singles listed, but I actually really liked this album. I thought it was good. They really like just took that like beach vacation sound that they always, you know, had done and just like fully went into it. And just like if you're at the beach or on vacation, like just put this album on. It is like easy breeze, you know, like drink in your hand, hanging out kind of album. It's really chill. And I'm
gonna have to revisit that one for sure. That sounds really cool.
It's really good. I like it. For sure. I listened to it for the first time. Oh gosh, was it 2022? So like 2 years ago? Because I was like looking at Sugar Ray and I saw 2019 album. I was like, what? They're releasing new stuff? So I listened to it and I liked it then. I liked it when I listened to it again during the research, during the discography. So, and I'm sure I'll listen to it again. Yeah. But
well, that's going to basically wrap it up for today. That's all for Sugar Ray. Shorter episode. That's all right. Newer band. I think they still occasionally tour, you know, like you were saying, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we could really recommend seeing them. I sent you a video on Instagram the other day, and it's gone viral. I think at this point you may have seen it yourself if you're watching this or listening to this. And it's Sugar Ray performing. It's a little clip of which song is that? I'm blanking on the. Is that it? Oh God.
Someday maybe.
Every day.
I think that's Someday.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep. Yes, I always get the titles mixed up. Mark does not sound good. It sounds really bad. And it's gone viral because of how bad he sounds. He was never an exceptional singer, and he himself knew this. But if you want to feel the nostalgic vibes, definitely go check them out on tour. Now, to say he sounds bad, you got to take that with a grain of salt, because rarely do I hear a cell phone video that actually sounds good. That is for whatever reason, even awesome singing just sounds like shit coming through a cell phone. I don't know why that is.
That's true.
Now, it's also a lot to be said for singers. It could have been a bad night, could have been a bad song, could have been a bad chorus. Maybe he nailed it the other times and you're just seeing this one tiny little snippet. You know, I've definitely had moments where I sing, a part great 13 shows in a row, and then I'm doing great that night, and then it comes to this chorus and someone in the crowd does something and throws me off and I mess up and miss a lyric, voice crack, whatever. Like, you never really know. Singing's really unpredictable. So whenever you see videos of somebody singing bad, I've learned, and I highly recommend everyone else learns as well, to kind of take it with a grain of salt, not immediately jump to like, this guy blows. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
it's we as a society have become way too fast to jump to crazy conclusions anyway with almost no data.
oh yeah, dude.
You saw 13 seconds of Sugar Ray and you walk away going, well, he sucks. It's like, bro, he's been a musician for 30 years. He's doing something okay.
I will say that a couple of the live performances I saw going back to not the Tonight Show, but they were on one of those late night shows and they did a performance. Even then, the singing was he was hitting his notes, but it wasn't blowing you away. And it seemed like he really had to concentrate to hit the notes and sing exceptionally. And then I think the video you sent me, he's running around the stage, walking around and stuff. So if he already has to really hone it down, sit still, focus on all the mechanics, the proper mechanics of singing and stuff, then, you're going to sacrifice a good bit of that while moving around and keeping the energy high. Also, I'm sure not a single person in that audience was like, oh, this sounds awful, because they're all probably singing the words along with them and screaming it, and they probably don't even hear him that well.
That's for sure. Alcohol's involved. Being in a room is a lot more forgiving than listening on a cell phone recording. There's just a lot to it to make you walk away being like, wow, he's still got it. And then you go back and watch the video and you're like, oh my God, what was I on? Yeah. Now, and then everything I just said about taking it with a grain of salt. That's all I'm saying. Take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't mean he might very well just suck and have lost it, or maybe he was never good. Who knows? I'm not even saying this about Mark McGrath in particular. I'm saying this about any singer. There's famous examples. Vince Neil, Axl Rose. There's lots of examples. So yeah, some people just lose it, or were never good in the first place, or we're hiding it through, Milli Vanilli techniques. Who knows? The point is, we never really know as a fan. So just take it with a grain of salt, give them the benefit of the doubt, and then make up your own mind once you feel like you have enough data. I feel like that's a better way to do pretty much anything than just shotgun these, crazy conclusions you've jumped to with no real proof or data or anything like that. That bugs me a little bit, but that's kind of, I guess I'm more of like a data detailed kind of guy, I guess. So maybe that's just me.
I've got a non-Sugar Ray thing that I would like to talk about briefly.
Nope. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Cuts me off.
Just kidding.
So recently, I don't.
What if the episode, you go to list the episode, it just literally ends there?
Yeah.
So I've got. Just cuts off.
I was going to say, you can always blame the
joking.
editor, but the editor is also one of the co-hosts. So.
But I am the editor. I can't blame myself. I just texting you like, dude, our editor fucked us.
Yeah.
You just text me back, dude, you're the editor.
He goes,
shit, you got me.
So I've been seeing these.
I just reply, I fucked us. Yeah.
So I don't know if it's Instagram or YouTube, but I keep seeing there's a channel that does shorts, and they have the screen divided into 4, and it's 4 artists, and it does a without auto-tune and with, and it takes them they sing a chorus of their song in this interview, a cappella, and then so it shows it lets you listen to the recording of their a cappella, and then it plays the song, the same line. And it's auto-tune versus no auto-tune is what the video is called. And I can't stand these videos because it's just pushing the further wrong idea into people's heads. You know, you see it all in the comments like, oh, they sound so good a cappella. Why would they use auto-tune and stuff? Like, there's just so much misinformation with auto-tune. And I think those videos are just absolutely making it worse. It is not.
Well, the only way to fight misinformation is with better information, I think. So we can make our own videos about that. But something I've realized more and more is, especially in the last couple of years, anything I see online, I'm trying to flip my gut reaction to basically be like, that's not real, or that's fake, or, you know, that's doctored in some way. Because so much is to get a reaction. There's so many examples I could give you. This one off the top of my head, this person made this whole video about like this dog befriending this fox or something like that. And it showed it from like a fox pup, you know, with this dog, and then all the way up. And so the first comment on the video is like, hey, one of these videos is mine. Those are like 4 different foxes. And it's just like, yeah, okay. So you're sitting here watching this video, getting engaged, getting fired up, getting, you know, feeling the feels, getting angry, whatever the video is trying to get you to do. And you don't realize like, it's just completely not real. Like, and this auto-tune thing, I haven't seen this style of video you're talking about, but as you were describing it, I was like, there's no way they're doing that legit. Like, there's no way they're making that work right. So, because I'm sitting here thinking of like, because I could make that work, and I'm trying to think, how would I make that work? And I was like, there's no way whoever's making this video is going through that trouble. Like, so
yeah,
that's
I'll send one to you.
That's part of it.
I'll come across one. Yesterday, I saw like 6 of them came through my feed, and I was like, okay. And they keep reusing the same artist. Like Oliver Tree's in one of them, and it's him going, you know, life goes on and on and on, and that's the one he's singing, and like. Which is funny. The number one comment is "Life goes onion, onion, onion," and when you hear that, dude, you can't unhear it. But it's like I don't know. I'll send one to you, and then we can discuss it further, maybe on a future episode. But man,
That'd
they were
good.
popping through, and I just don't like them.
A lot of misinformation on or quote mistakes on posts and stuff is just designed for clicks. So, for example, a big one is you see someone write, you know. Use the wrong your, you know, Y-O-U-R instead of the apostrophe R-E. And you think like, and you go look at the comments, every comment's like, it's you dumbass, just stuff like that. And it's like the person did this on purpose and you commented and fell in the trap. And now your comment boosts their post. Like they literally did this on purpose to get more comments. Like
I always think that with those number one comments, like down there, there's always like a number one comment that has a misspelled word. And I feel like that's the reason, like same kind of thing.
It's just the internet is at a place right now where I would be very wary to trust anything.
Yeah.
Anything like, and I find myself, dude, I'm scrolling by. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's crazy how they did that. Wait a second. I just find myself doing that to myself now. As soon as I start believing something, I'm like, hold on. I've seen 99 other posts today, and 98 of them were fake. So what makes me think this one's real?
Yeah, I will say with those.
So anyway,
auto-tune versus non-auto-tune, like that, none of them really make the artists look bad. Most of the artists you can hear like, yeah, they've got like natural talent. And then you hear the song, and you're like, yeah, they did the proper editing to make the song sound good for the radio. Like
perfect,
exactly. All right, so with that,
we got to get into our ratings.
Yeah, some ratings.
We rate out of 6 categories. We rate each of those categories out of 5. We take an average for a final rating. Those ratings are creativity, evolution, replayability, cultural impact, emotional connection, and the nostalgia factor. Let's get a shot right out of the gate. Creativity. This is comparing them to other bands in their space. How creative are they compared to other bands in their space? I have an idea already. I'm going to say I have a number in my head. I'm going to let you go first, but I'm just saying it right now. I have the number in my head, so you don't think I just copied you.
Yeah, I've got my number, and we're hitting them with a 2. They're not
okay.
I could even. You could make a case for a 1. You could make a case for a 3, but I'm gonna.
What's your justification here?
I don't think really when you listen to them, they're not that special. Like I can hear them, and I instantly am like that Sugar Ray, but. I don't think there's anything super unique within their writing style. Maybe there's more uniqueness in their metal sounds than, you know, the radio stuff. But really, I'm kind of like, I hate to do this, but I'm kind of just judging them off their singles because of how different the rest of their music. But
the number I had in my head was actually a 4, and you could definitely make an argument for a 3. I think I'm going with a 4 because Sugar Ray sounds like Sugar Ray. You know, they have their sound, and I don't think anyone else really quite has that sound. They kind of cornered that. Yes, they sound 90s, early 2000s kind of pop rock, but they have that beach element that a band like Gin Blossoms or Everclear didn't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I went with a 4 there. Let's move on to Evolution. I think Evolution, you can't argue with this one. They definitely evolved. Just to what degree? I think a 3 is fair here for me. I'm going to say a 3.
I'm going to go with a 4.
You know, yeah, so they started obviously in a very different place than where they ended up. So that's Evolution, to me at least.
Yeah.
I definitely understand a 4 too. I just went a 3. Maybe I was being a little too generous with the creativity. Balance it out there.
Yeah, their sound definitely evolved over time quite a bit, for the better. Honestly, let me just put that out as well. They evolved for the better. So, do you mind if I lead this one? I could make a strong argument to myself for a 5 out of 5 here, but I'm gonna put a 4 out of 5 just because I feel like that's more accurate. At least like their hits, like I'm gonna listen to those forever and ever, and they will be in my playlist. They will be in songs that I listen to for the rest of time, you know. So like that's why it's like it could be a 5 out of 5, but I'll put a 4 out of 5 because I'm never. If you ever put Sugar Ray on, I'm not ever really gonna skip it or ask you to skip. I'm always gonna enjoy it, sing along to it, bob my head, feel good.
You know? I'm also at a 4 out of 5 for those reasons. A lot of those songs were just iconic songs at the time. So that brings us to cultural impact. I think cultural impact. I'm in between a 2 or a 3, and whatever you say may sway me one way or another. What are you thinking?
I was at a 2 with this one. Like their song.
I'm gonna match you there then.
Yeah, like I mean, they wrote "Fly" and it was a #1. You know, and they became this huge thing for a little bit of time. But like outside of that, they really weren't that big, like that huge cultural, like impacting band.
Yeah.
They were just kind of got blended in with like the rest of the like late 90s, early 2000s, like pop stuff.
And I think it's worth saying cultural impact, at least in my mind, is really seeing a big impact outside of the music. You know what I mean? Again, we think of the only person that's ever scored a 6 out of 5 on any category, and that was Taylor Swift for cultural impact. And I don't need to explain why. She's had she goes to a city and the city's economy changes. That doesn't have anything to do. I mean, I guess you could argue it does have something to do with the music, but that's not a musical thing in and of itself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we're approaching cultural impact, at least in my mind.
Yeah, like my idea of cultural impact, like that Taylor Swift, like, you know, like other parts to it are like I don't even know if I can tell you that I've ever seen a Sugar Ray t-shirt, but then you think of like the Beatles, Kiss, Guns N' Roses, like those three, like for cultural
Nirvana,
impact, like they're never, they're going to be talked about for so many years past the great things they did, and they'll continue to be talked about. And that's just how strong like their cultural impact is, you know, like nobody's really talking about Sugar Ray today. Like not really, you know what I mean? So that's like,
that's a really good point.
So that's kind of how I see it. Like the Beatles would be a 5 out of 5, you know, like maybe even a 6, maybe the only other 6 out of 5 than Taylor. But like, you know, I would put Guns N' Roses at like a 5 out of 5. I would put Kiss at a 5 out of 5, you know, like these bands that just like,
if they sell your t-shirt in Walmart.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So your AC/DC, Nirvana.
Yep. AC/DC being one, like those ones that just like hit their genre so hard that, you know, it'll never, ever not, you know, be talked about and whatnot. So, all right.
That brings us to emotional connection.
I'm at a 3 out of 5 here. Right about, you know, close to the middle, a little leaning over.
I was between a 2 and a 3. I'm going to match you again. Be generous. 3 out of 5. You know, I don't overly emotionally connect to, you know, lyrical content or stuff, but I like their music a lot, and it kind of hits right in the middle for me. 2.5 feels weird, so I'm going to say 3.
Yep. I don't think I really have anything to add to that. 3 out of 5. This is a really bad explanation. It just feels right. 3 out of 5 is like, it's right there.
Well, that brings us to nostalgia factor. I don't think there's any argument here. It's a 5 out of 5 for me.
Oh, absolutely. Same.
This is one of the nostalgia bands.
This is one of the biggest nostalgia bands. Probably the only thing that really I mean, it is huge for us, but definitely one of the
What are
carrying
so
factors.
tell me like a memory or two you associate with Sugar Ray.
That's what I'm trying to think. Like, because I know they have a song on like one of the nows, and like my childhood is segmented by the different nows, and I'm thinking that it was like definitely, man, I want to say it's right in that period of like maybe fifth grade, like it definitely before the Linkin Park stuff. I feel like, or maybe it's around
Okay,
the same
so
time, but I want to say just like late elementary school and like just hearing like
it was, to interject real quick with some more data for you, it was Now That's What I Call Music number 5. This one's great. It
five.
starts with Lenny Kravitz, American Woman. That's
Mm,
cool. Shania Twain's on here. And then track number 10, Sugar Ray, Every Morning.
every morning. Yep. That was their biggest hit apart from Fly. So that was, and I think I like every morning more than Fly actually, personally. I think I've heard the song Fly the most because that one just never stopped playing.
I feel like it was in like every ad too,
Yeah.
you know? Like every ad of like someone in a shirt on a beach. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep. And then that's playing.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings us to our total. Ashton's sitting at a 3 to third, 3.33 out of 5. Somehow I came in on top with a 3.5 out of 5. And I
That's
was probably being a
crazy.
little generous with the creativity. But a 3.5 out of 5 for Sugar Ray. You know, they're right there, kind of on the slightly above average for me, I think.
Yeah,
That
that's
feels right. 3.5 feels about how if I were to just throw a number in the dark at rate Sugar Ray without any of the discussion, I'd probably say 3.5. So that feels good. I think we got there true to form.
yeah, that's crazy. You beat me. I always thought I was the bigger Sugar Ray fan, but
I
I
think
still
you
might
definitely
be.
are.
I think
Yeah.
I'm the bigger fan, and I think I was a little harder on him because of it.
I was just generous with the creativity.
Yeah,
And
that's the
but
biggest difference
I
there.
stand by my justification for that. I feel like they were creative within their space.
Yeah. I think you made a good
Their
point.
space being 90 late 90s early 2000s rock or
Yeah,
alternative, you know. That's their space. Within that space, they were unique in their own way, I think.
sure. Well,
Cool.
that does it for Sugar Ray.
Sugar Ray, bring it home. Any final thoughts?
No final thoughts on the band. Just wanted to remind the people, that to not forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Hit us with those 5-star reviews on wherever you're listening to the podcast, whether that be Apple Podcast, Spotify, or the many others. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. We have a $5 tier that gives you access to our private Discord, a shout out on an episode, and the ability to vote on future episode topics. And that'll be it for us
There we go.
today.
All right, you guys. We'll see you next week.